Joining us now is Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, who's also a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, good to see you. You know, my math isn't too great here, but it seems to me we've sent them 5,000. They want 500 a day. Lockheed is telling us that they can do about, at best, 2,000 a year. Are we in a position to continue to supply the Ukrainian forces with what they need?
You know, it's taken a toll on the people in Troy, Alabama, a small town right outside of Montgomery, Sean. They're working every day. I visited there last year about this time. They make the THAAD missile. They make the Javelin. We're proud of them. We should thank any opportunity. Thank these people that are building things like this. These are just average people that they're to make a living. But you got to think about this. We're not only sending these Javelins, we're also having NATO send their Javelins. So they're going to have to be replenished. They're going to have to work night and day for a long time to replenish all these Javelins. They've been very successful. We're proud of the people in Troy, but it's going to be a while before we can replenish our stock. And hopefully we have enough left over to make sure that we can defend ourselves.
Well, that's just it, Senator. I mean, if we're giving this many to Ukraine, which is awesome, but we're not able to replenish what we need, what happens when we need to potentially give someone like Taiwan defense weapons as well?
That was one of my questions to the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State about the Javelins that we had a hearing not too long ago. We're not taking from our stockpile for the Indo-Pacific. We're not doing that. We have limitations like everybody else of what we can do and what we can't do. So we should have the stockpile there. Eventually, we're going to have to start using other things like the Stinger, some other type of missile, but the Javelin has been very, very successful.
But are you concerned, or I guess put it this way, did the answer that they give you, was it satisfactory? Because to Lindsay's point, I mean, you got other folks that we might need them, but we may need them ourselves at some point to defend ourselves. Do we have the amount of Javelins we need to protect ourselves? And are you getting the answers you need? Well,
the answers that we're getting from the people that should know is we do have that at this time. We're not drawing from that stockpile. But if this war continues on, we'll have to make a decision. But it's so important that NATO falls in line, in which they have to this point, of giving their missiles. They all have the same missile, the Javelin missiles, and they're sending those. But they have to also keep enough to protect themselves. We cannot just run through our supply, in a short period of time, because as you said earlier in the interview, it takes a while to build these things.
Okay, so we're talking about how proud we are of these people at Lockheed Martin who are making the Javelin missile, and that's incredible. But is it concerning that there's only one company who makes them?
I'm sure they're looking at alternatives, but as you watch these being made, it takes days. That takes days to make these. As you said earlier, they can make up to 2,100 a year. If this war continues on, there will be some kind of adjustment. There will have to be some kind of adjustment to make more of them if needed. They might not need the Javelins after a certain point, but we'll have to wait and see. But as we all know, we had a stockpile, but we're about halfway through that stockpile in terms of what we're using, maybe for the Middle East or maybe for some other areas. But I have been told that we're not using our stockpile for the Indo-Pacific at this point.
I guess the broader question is, when you look at, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, when you look at our strategic capabilities, have we gotten to the point where we have allowed a single defense contractor, whether it's the Javelin missile, the Stinger, or various planes and ships, to become sole source providers of certain things that we don't have duplicity anymore? So we got one provider and that's it, and we've now lost the ability to manufacture multiple, ships or tanks or weaponry that we used to be able to have multiple companies competing for each other.
Well, that's a good question, Sean, and we're always asking that. The problem that you have, whether it's missiles, whether it's planes, whether it's ships, when you run out of a contract, those workers have to go to work for somebody else. I mean, we can't continue to give out different kind of contracts to different people to build things when we don't have the money to build them. And so say we have 3 or 4 people that build a destroyer, for instance, 3 or 4 different contractors. We want to make sure that all those contractors, if they run out of out of a bid, and if they're run out of a contract, that we get them something else where they can keep their workers working to a point to where sooner or later we're going to need those workers, because if they go to some other industry, then it takes a while to put together a manufacturing spoke to build anything that we need in the defense area. So that's a great question. It's a concern every day. We're running into this situation now with the Javelins. Hopefully we can continue to build these Javelins, but and hopefully, you know, at the end of the day, we don't have to build them for Ukraine. We need to get this war over with. And, you know, President Biden's wanting $33 billion more. I want to know what that money's for, because we're spending a lot of money. We want to make sure we can protect Ukraine, but we need to make sure it's going in the right direction.
Okay. All right. Senator Tommy Tuberville, appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.